Ben, the reshuffle is supposed to show us that Theresa May is back in charge and we're pushing through her agenda. I'm trying to work out what it is she still stands for, because nothing really major has happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem with making these grand announcements that a reshuffle is coming is that if you're not actually going to change the 4 big government posts, most people that you're moving around are going to fall beneath people's radar in terms of name recognition anyway. So they're not going to really know that Patrick McLaughlin's being moved for Brandon Lewis, because they're not going to know who either of those people are. So I think it's going to be difficult for Theresa May to explain to the country why what she has done represents a big shift.
But she does need to explain to the country what she's doing, because she needs to drive her government forward, Ben.
She does, and I think a reshuffle was sorely needed. I actually would have gone far further and moved around the most senior government positions, because I think the government and the Conservative Party is in dire need of a refresh. Now, some of the people that Theresa May has brought in are interesting. People like James Cleverly as Deputy Chairman of the Conservative Party, but they're really interesting to political nerds like me. I don't think they're going to be very interesting to the average person on the street. What I do suspect, however, is that Theresa May plans to deploy some of these figures that she's brought into deputy roles more and more in the media. What we do know about the figures she's brought in is many of them are good media performers, and it would suggest that they're going to replace people like Damien Green and Michael Fallon going out there and explaining what the government's trying to do. So people may get to know them, but at this point, I think to the average person on the street, they're not seeing the fresh, the freshness, the spirit of change that one would expect from a reshuffle.
Ben, Brexit will dominate everything this and any future government does for decades. It is what it is, unfortunately. But apart from that, what does Theresa May stand for, apart from grammar schools and fox hunting, both of which she's got to put back on her back burner?
Well, I think Theresa May represents a generation of politicians that the British public have moved past. The so-called third way or centrist politicians who don't really stand for much, stay in the middle of the road, and tend to be lacking in character, shall we say. I think Theresa May is a hangover from that, and she finds herself in an invidious position, as you say, in terms of having to steer a very treacherous course with the Brexit negotiations. But I don't think she represents the future of politics, and whether it be in 6 months or whether it be in 3 years, I think we'll see a new Conservative Party and a new Conservative leader that mirrors what's happened in Labour, with a switch away from centrist politics back to ideology.
And where's your money going on, Ben? Because the things could change quicker than we know, of course, in politics.
Well, it all depends on how the leadership election is conducted. But if it is conducted as Labour's was before the grassroots membership, then Jacob Rees-Mogg will win by a landslide.
And back to the NHS, both the Prime Minister and the Health Secretary apologised last week. The one reshuffle news we're waiting for is Jeremy Hunt. What does she do with him?
Well, I think Jeremy Hunt is seen by most people in government as a competent minister. The problem with the NHS is that there isn't the money to pay for it, and there isn't the money to pay for a rapidly ageing population that are going to be putting increasing demands on the NHS. Now, no leader, no government has had the backbone to stand in front of the British people and say, we're going to have to significantly rebalance the way government works if we want to keep the NHS fully funded. And we've already seen elements of this with the social care policy. They were, of course, very unpopular because people have been told that they were going to have their elderly care provided for them. So I wouldn't blame Jeremy Hunt for the funding shortfall, but I think most of the public, and indeed many employees of the NHS, do blame him because he is the face of having an austere budget and not giving the NHS.
Well, Ben, he's never had the confidence of the people that work for him in terms of the NHS, not his department, of course, but in the NHS. I mean, you can't picture him walking into any hospital in England and being greeted with aplomb. They're going to look. He's going to any hospital he walks into, he's going to have problems.
I can't think of a health secretary in recent memory that commanded a great deal of respect or certainly wasn't well thought of within the medical profession. And that's because, as I say, you've got an organisation in the NHS that is needing every year more and more funding, and nowhere near the funds to pay for it. So whoever is health secretary is automatically given a very difficult job of selling to the NHS how they've got to make do and do more for less, essentially. And that is across the political spectrum. Labour had the same problem in its later years, and the Conservative Party, if they move Jeremy Hunt out and bring someone else in, they'll have exactly the same issue, because it's not that Jeremy Hunt's got the money and doesn't want to use it, he just doesn't have the money.
And Ben, just before we go, James Brokenshire is standing down or stepping aside for health reasons. We don't know what the problem is, but we do wish him a speedy recovery, whatever the issue is, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I would take from what he has said that his health condition is serious enough that he cannot continue in government. And all we can do is wish him a speedy recovery.
Ben, thank you for joining us. Councillor Ben Harris-Quinney, who's chairman of the Bow Group and director of Conservative Grassroots.